were sitting at Grandma's old upright piano, trying to teach each other to play. We heard heavy, uneven footsteps at the front door. We turned and saw Dad. He tripped on the coffee table when we tried to help him. He cursed and lurched at us, swinging his fist. He wanted to know where that goddamn sorry assessed mother of ours was, and he got so mad when we didn't tell him that he pulled over Grandma's china closet, sending her fine bone china crashing to the floor. Brain came running in. He tried to grab Dad's leg, but Dad kicked him off. Dad jacked on the silverware drawer and hurled the forks and spoons and knives across the room, then picked up one of the chairs and smashed it on Grandma's table. Rosemary, where the goddamn hell are you? You stinking bitch, he yelled. Where is that for hiding? He found Mom in the bathroom, crouched in the hot tub. As she tottered past him, he grabbed her dress and she started flailing. They fought their way into the dining room and he knocked her to the floor. She reached into the pile of kitchen utensils that Dad had thrown there, grabbed a butcher knife and slashed it through the air in front of him. Dad leaned back. A knife fight. Oh, he grinned. Okay, if that's what you want. He picked up a knife too, tossing it from hand to hand. Then he knocked the knife out of Mom's hand, dropped his own knife, and wrestled her to the floor. Wicket pounded on Dad's back and begged him to stop, but he ignored us. At last, he pinned Mom's hand behind her head. Rosemary, you are one hell of a woman, Dad said. Mom told him he was a stinking rotten drunk. Yeah, but you love this old drunk, do not you? Dad said. Mom at first said no, she didn't, but Dad kept asking her again and again, and when she finally said yes, the fight disappeared from both of them, vanished as if it had never existed. Dad started laughing and hugging Mom, who was laughing and hugging him. It was as if they were so happy they had not killed each other, that they had fallen in love all over again. I did not feel like celebrating. After all he had put himself through, I could not believe Dad had gone back to the booze, with Dad drinking again and no money coming in. Mom began to talk about moving east to West Virginia, where Dad's parents lived. friends would help keep him in line. If nothing else, they could help us out financially, like Grandma Smith had done from time to time. We would love it in West Virginia, she told us. We would live in the forest, in the mountains, with the squirrels and the chipmunks. We could meet our grandma and grandpa Walls, who were genuine hillbillies. Mom made living in West Virginia sound like another great adventure, and pretty soon all us kids had signed on for the trip. Dad hated the idea, however, and refused to help Mom, so she plotted on her own. Since we had never retrieved the car or any of our stuff from the Wade Grand Canyon expedition, the first thing Mom needed was a set of wheels. She said that God works in mysterious ways, and it just so happened that she had inherited some land in Texas when Grandpa died. She waited until she received a check for several $100 from the company that was leasing the drilling rights. Then she went to buy a used car. A local radio station had a promotional broadcast once a week from a car lot that we passed on our way to school. Every Wednesday, the DJs and used car salesmen would rave on air about the incredible deals and the lowest prices around. To prove their point, they would announce the piggy bank special, some car priced under $1,000, and they would sell to the first lucky caller. Mom set her sights on a piggy bank special. She wasn't taking any chances on being the first caller. She went down with her cash and sat in the dealership office while we kids waiting on a park bench across the street, listening to the broadcast on our transistor radio. The piggy bank special that Wednesday was a 1956 Oldsmobile, which Mom bought for $200. We listened as she took to the airwaves to tell the radio audience she knew a heck of a bargain when she saw one. Mom was not allowed her to test drive the piggy bank special before buying it. The car lurched and stalled several times. On the way home, it was impossible to tell whether it was Mom's driving or whether we had bought a lemon. We kids were not all that thrilled about the idea of Mom driving us cross country. She did not have a valid driving license, for one thing, and she would always been a terrible driver. If Dad got too drunk, she ended up behind the wheel. But cars never seemed to run right for Mom. Once we were driving through downtown Phoenix and she couldn't get the brakes to work, and she had Brian and me stick out head out the windows and scream, "No brakes, no brakes," as we rolled through intersections, and she looked for something relatively soft to scratch into. We ended up blowing into a dumpster behind a supermarket and walking home. Mom said that anyone critical of her driving could help with the task. Now that we had a car, she continued, we could leave the next morning. It was October and we had been in school for just over a month, but Mom said we had no time to tell our teachers we were withdrawing or to get any of our school records. When we enrolled in West Virginia, she would watch for our scholastic achievement, and once a new teacher heard us read, they would realize we were all gifted. Dad was still refusing to come with us. When we left, he said he was going to head out into the desert on his own to become a prospector. I asked Mom if we were going to sell the house on North 3rd Street or rent it out. Neither, she said. It is my house. She explained that it was nice to own something for a change, and she saw no point in selling it just because we were moving. She didn't want to rent it either, since she was opposed to anyone else living in her house. We would leave it as it was to prevent burglars and vandals from breaking in. We would hang laundry on the clothesline and put dirty dishes in the sink. That way, Mom pointed out, potential intruders would think the house was occupied and would be fooled into believing that the people who lived there might come home any second. The following morning, we packed up the car while Dad sat in the living room sulking. We tied Mom's art supplies to the roof, filled the trunk with pots and pans and blankets. Mom had bought each of us a warm coat and a thrift store, so we would have something to wear in West Virginia, where it got so cold in the winter that it snowed. Mom said we could each take only one thing, like the time we left Battle Mountain. I wanted to bring my bike, but Mom said it was too big, so I bought my yachts. I ran into the backyard and said goodbye to the orangery, and then I ran out front to get in the Oldsmobile. I had to crawl over Brian and sit in the middle because he and Laurie had already stepped window seats. Maureen was in the front seat with Mom, who had started the engine and was practicing her gear shifters. Dad was still in the house, so I leaned over Brian and shouted at the top of my voice. Dad appeared in the doorway, his arms folded across his chest. Dad, please come. We need you, I hollered. Laurie and Brian and Mom and Marine all chimed in. We need you, we shouted. You are the head of the family. You are the dad. Come on. Dad stood there looking at us for a minute. Then he flicked the cigarette he was smoking into the yard, closed the front door, looped over to the car and told Mom to move aside. He was driving.